Hello, class. This is Mr. Mormon. This is lesson number 2 in our ecology unit. Today we're going to be talking about how energy flows through ecosystems. Let's start by reviewing a concept we learned in the last video, autotrophs and heterotrophs. Let's compare and contrast them. How are they the same? How are they different? In the middle, we write down things that are the same. Well, all autotrophs and heterotrophs, they're living things, and they're made up of cells. And those cells need food. They need energy. They need fuel. And that fuel is going to be glucose, is the simple sugar that powers all of cells' activities. It's cell food. We have it flowing in our blood right now. We call it blood sugar. All living things have cells that need glucose. Now, how they get those glucose, that's where the difference comes in. Autotrophs are producers, whereas heterotrophs are consumers. Autotrophs are making their own food. Okay, they actually make the glucose by using photosynthesis, which is using the sunlight energy to make that glucose molecule. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, they must eat and digest food. They're going to be eating sugars, or they're going to be eating starches, or they're going to be eating fats. Starches and fats can be broken down into the sugars that go into the blood to feed the animal. So that's an overview. Autotrophs versus heterotrophs. You do not need to take down any of this information. Only the things that I write by hand need to be copied. Now, it's important to note that there are two different types of autotrophs. There are those that do photosynthesis. That would be like plants and trees and bushes and grass and algae that's in the water. And then there's chemosynthesis. These chemosynthetic organisms in this diagram are living at the bottom of the ocean at deep sea hydrothermal vents. They're taking, using the energy from chemical reactions and the heat energy bubbling out from these hydrothermal vents and using that to make carbohydrates, to make those sugars that they need. There are also different types of heterotrophs which you need to know. Herbivores is the first classification, and they eat only plants. You need to copy this in your notes. Carnivores are animal eaters. Now, it's important to not think of carnivores only as meat eaters. That's usually the definition that's given. When you think of them only as meat eaters, you think of lions and tigers and great white sharks. But a spider or a robin is just as much a carnivore as a lion or a great white shark. So that's why we like to use the definition animal eater for carnivore. And then omnivores eat both. Then there are detritivores. Detritus is dead stuff. So detritivores are eating dead things. We can also call them scavengers. There are many more subcategories, like piscivores eat only fish, frugivores eat only fruit, but these are the main ones that you need to know. And then there's a very special group of heterotrophs which are called decomposers. These are going to be bacteria and fungi like molds, mildews, mushrooms. And what they do is they eat dead things also, but it's not the same as the detritivore because they're going to be causing these dead things to rot or decay. And those nutrients then can be recycled. They go back into the soil, back into the water, so that they can be used again by the new plants that are growing. It's a very important part of the whole cycle of life, these decomposers returning the nutrients to the soil and the water. Okay, so a quick recap before we move on to new concepts. All living things need energy or fuel for their cells. That fuel is going to be glucose, a simple sugar. We can think of glucose as cell food. Now, plants make it for themselves when they do autotrophic nutrition, when they do photosynthesis. Using sunlight energy, they charge those glucose molecules up with all those chemical bonds that form, and that energy is stored in the chemical bonds of glucose. Animals need that energy also, but they're going to eat. And we would call that heterotrophic nutrition. They're going to eat starches and fats, and they are digested into sugars that feed the cells. Okay, now the next concept here is the idea of food chains. Okay, in this diagram, we see how one organism eats another, And energy is going to move up this food chain. That's what the arrows represent, how energy flows from the algae to the zooplankton. The zooplankton, these are animal-like plankton that are going to be eating the algae. The energy will flow in this direction, and then to the small fish, which are eaten by the squid, which are eaten by the shark. The energy is going to be moving in this direction. Food chains, remember, the arrows always point in the direction that the energy. All right, so the energy is flowing like this. It's important to remember also that energy flows through the ecosystem in only one direction. It's going to start with the producers that are getting their energy from the sun. In this case, that would be the algae over here. Those are our producers. And then each one of these animals that's eating or consuming is a consumer or heterotroph. Now, one of the things that students often make mistakes in is the arrows, because they think about it backwards. Remember, the arrows show the way the energy flows, but some students look at this and say, well, you know, the squid is eating the small fish, so they'll put the arrows that way, showing the squid eating the fish. That is wrong. Again, the arrows show the way the energy flows. Okay, the next concept I want to talk about are food webs. If you take all of the food chains in an ecosystem and show them in one diagram, showing all the different connections that can be made, you end up with this kind of diagram. It's called a food web, showing all of the different food chains in the ecosystem. And I'd like to point out a few important things in this particular food web. Let's walk through this food web, starting down here at the bottom with the producers. Producers form the base of the food web. The grasses, trees, and other plants use raw materials and sunlight to make sugars and starches. Blue arrows show the movement of energy from producers to first-level consumers. All first-level consumers are herbivores. Now, the different levels that get created here are called trophic levels. The first trophic level would be the producers down here at the bottom. Our first level consumers are the herbivores. These would be second level consumers up here, and the fox way at the top would be a third level consumer or tertiary consumer. Yellow arrows show energy moving from first-level consumers to second-level consumers. Second-level consumers may be carnivores like the shrew or omnivores like the mouse. Red arrows show energy moving from second-level consumers to third-level consumers. The top consumer in this food web is a fox. Now, it's a little hard to see in this diagram, but there are arrows coming down, these little tan-covered arrows that are coming all the way down here to the decomposers. And it says, decomposers consume the waste and remains of other organisms. This renews the supply of raw materials for the producers. These are fungi and bacteria, and they are the great recyclers in nature, recycling nutrients. That's an important concept to remember. Here's another example of a food web in a salt marsh. Again, the lowest level is going to be our producers, the plants, the algae. There's microscopic ones as well as, you know, the larger seaweeds and grasses that we see. The algae is also a producer. They're all green. They're doing photosynthesis, making that glucose. They then they're the producers. They're producing the food for everything else, and the energy flows up the food chains, up through the food web, through all the different trophic levels that you can see here. Okay, with, you know, these organisms at the top being the top level consumers. Okay, and then everything is decomposed. It's rotted, it's decayed by these fungi and bacteria that recycle the nutrients. Okay, let's wrap it up with this final concept, energy pyramids. An energy pyramid diagram shows the energy available at each level of a food web. Energy, in this case, is being measured in kilocalories or kcal. You'll notice the most energy is available down here at the producer level. At each level in the pyramid, or in each level of the pyramid, there is less available energy than at the level below. As a matter of fact, you'll notice that it goes down by a factor of 10. There's only 1/10 the energy each level you go up. 1,000, 100, 10, 1. So where's that energy going? Well, a lot of the energy is being used up by the organisms. Remember, each one of these organisms made of cells, they need that energy, and that energy is being used up as it goes up the food chain. And some of it is being lost as heat as well. These organisms are warm-blooded, some of them up here at the top. The grasshopper is not, but there will still be some energy lost from as heat. So why does it have to be this pyramid shape? Why, is the base so much bigger than the top? Well, here's another way to think about it. Imagine one of these grasshoppers. Is it going to be happy in its lifetime with just one blade of grass? No, of course not. Each grasshopper in its lifetime is going to consume many, many blades of grass. So that level needs to be much bigger to support the level above it. And these shrews that are eating the grasshoppers, are they going to be happy with just one grasshopper in their life? No, they're going to eat many, many grasshoppers in their lifetime. So there has to be many more grasshoppers than shrews. Same thing with the owl. The owls needs many of the shrews to keep it alive. So each level is going to be small. The owls are going to be the most rare thing in the ecosystem. They're going to be the fewest in number. Whether you're looking at the energy or the number of organisms, it's going to be smaller and smaller and smaller as you move up the food web, or food chain, I should say. All right, that's it for the concepts of energy flow through an ecosystem. If you have any questions, please ask me in class tomorrow.